But first, it took decades to create a home too difficult to describe in a few words.
Wow.
See the strange methods he used next. There are all kinds of sweeteners. My favorite is good old-fashioned sugar. And our next homeowner knew that even though his house was modest, he could still make it a place that his wife could be proud of. And today it's known as the sweetest house in El Paso, Texas. No. In a desert environment like El Paso, Texas, it can be hard for flowers to grow. But in one neighborhood, a flower of a different kind has sprouted and grown into something that's become a local landmark. Rather than an actual flower, it's the home owned and decorated by Rufino Loya Rivas. Sandwiched between the Franklin Mountains on one side and a busy highway on the other, Rufino's home isn't where you'd necessarily expect a masterpiece. But people started flocking to it, and the neighbors began calling the home La Casa de Azúcar, or the House of Sugar.
Mi casa la han nombrado la Casa de Azúcar.
They call it the Sugarhouse because from a distance, they say it looks like a wedding cake.
Parecía un wedding.
While the house may look good enough to eat, this wasn't always the case. When Rufino bought the house in 1973, he described it as looking horrible with nothing but rocks and dirt everywhere. Rufino promised his wife Celia that he'd turn the house into something special. He then set out to transform this ordinary home into one that was extraordinary. His first attempt was this arch, which he made out of brick. It turned out so well that it inspired Rufino to build even more. What's really amazing is that he had no background in this type of work.
Yo nunca había hecho trabajo.
I had never done any kind of masonry work. I'd only worked in clothes manufacturing.
With the arch behind him, Rufino turned his attention to the front of the house. Next up were the bases for the pots, the window covers, and the fence. Making good on his promise to his wife to beautify their home, Rufino drew from his memories of the Baroque-style churches of his childhood in Mexico. Like those buildings, the look he set out to create was inspired. His material of choice was simple, but solid: Portland cement. He folded it by hand into flat circles and balls, and poured it into cups and bowls that served as molds. Some of the home's little touches, like these flowers, were made out of aluminum. Notice the buds on them. They're made out of bottle caps. After completing the main gate, Rufino then built this monument. It took a lot of work, almost 600 hours worth. Next on his agenda was this shrine to the Virgin of Guadalupe. Like the other shrines, this one took some time, just over a year to complete. The end result of Rufino's effort is a home that he considers to be a love letter to the city of El Paso, his adopted hometown. And the citizens of El Paso have responded warmly. A lot of folks have put it on their must-see lists of things in El Paso, and Rufino couldn't be happier at their responses, which need no translation.
Wow.
Coming up, a whimsical Cajun meets Italian compound that will amaze you. Next on Home Strange Home.